It was November 1970, and Concorde had just flown supersonically at 2,140 kilometers per hour to become the fastest passenger aircraft in history. The plane was still in its testing phase, but this superjet could now travel twice as fast as a normal aircraft. It was the year's main event. It would take another 6 years of testing and over £1 billion of development money before the first Concorde entered service. Ideas for developing supersonic transport had been discussed as far back as the 1950s. Britain's Bristol Aeroplane Company and France's Sud Aviation had been working on supersonic aircraft with the help of funding from their respective governments. While the British were working on a delta-shaped aircraft for transatlantic travel for around 100 passengers, the French were aiming to build a medium-range aircraft, with both designs slated for prototype production by the early 1960s. Due to the cost of development, the Bristol Aeroplane Company had signed a draft agreement with the French on the 28th of November 1962, and construction of 2 prototype models began in February of 1965. Concorde's famous shape and design, including the signature drop nose and delta wings, were developed to increase the plane's aerodynamic efficiency and enable it to fly at high speeds for long periods of time. Concorde 001, built at Aerospatiale in Toulouse, made its first test flight on the 2nd of March 1969, going supersonic on the 1st of October. Concorde 002, the first British-built Concorde, left Bristol on the 9th of April 1969. Both aircraft embarked on a worldwide sales and demonstration tour to help secure revenue for the exciting new enterprise. During Concorde's development, on the other side of Europe, Russia had built a competing supersonic passenger plane called the Tu-144. They proudly boasted that it had flown a full 2 months before Concorde. It did indeed become the fastest commercial airliner when it reached Mach 2 on the 15th of July 1969. However, due to 2 major crashes, it never sold outside Russia and was taken out of service in the late 70s. With over 70 orders in place, the future of Concorde was looking good. But then, in 1973, the oil crisis hit, and environmental concerns began to take hold. A number of orders were cancelled, leaving British Airways and Air France the only 2 airlines to take up their orders. London to Bahrain and Paris to Rio were scheduled as regular routes and began on the 21st of January 1976. Around this time, protests surrounding the sonic booms made by the plane prompted the US Congress to ban Concorde flights on and over American soil. After finding out that the noise made by their own presidential plane, Air Force One, was louder than Concorde, the ban was lifted, and services to America began on the 22nd of November 1977, and in the same year, services to Singapore also started. With the capacity to carry only 100 passengers, the planes had a very simple fit-out, no in-flight entertainment, and the legroom of a modern aircraft economy section. However, with a flight time of around 3.5 hours from London to New York, these were minor issues for Concorde travellers. In 1983, after continually losing money, the British government sold Concorde to British Airways outright for the first year's profits and £1.6 million. After conducting a survey, though, the new owners discovered that people thought it was more expensive to fly on Concorde than it actually was, so the airline raised the prices and began making a profit. Then, in 2003, following the Paris crash of 2000, growing environmental awareness, and a slump in air travel, Air France and British Airways chose to retire Concorde, and a groundbreaking chapter in air travel was brought to a close.